Hey y'all, I'm Susan Boles, author of the Lily Gayle Lambert Cozy Mystery series. It's set in Mercy, Mississippi. That's a fictional town in North Mississippi, kind of south of Memphis, Tennessee, just to give you a geographic location on it. And so I hope you have seen the previous video where I read an excerpt from the first book in the series, Death of a Wolfman. Today I'm going to read an excerpt from book 2 in the series, which is called Cherry Cake and a Cadaver. So here's the book. So you can kind of see the cover, what that looks like. Again, this is book 2 in the Lily Gayle Lambert Mystery series. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple, Kobo, all the major ebook retailers. So I'm going to read an excerpt. This scene is Lily Gayle and her best friend Dixie are going up to take a look at the new bed and breakfast in town that's opening this weekend, but they want to get a look at what's in there before the whole crowds get there. So they're kind of sneaking around where they shouldn't be, and so they've gone up to the house, and here's what happens. "I don't like this," Dixie said. "What? It's probably hard to get closed tight. A lot of these old houses are like that. At least they are if they still have the original doors. My back door is that way. You have to pull up on the knob and toward you hard to get it to catch completely. I bet one of the workers didn't get it shut tight. Come on." Pushing the door open further, I was met with semi-murky light. The blinds were all drawn back here too, but I made out high-end commercial appliances in place. "Looky there," I said. "Someone left a cake out on the counter. I bet it's stale as straw dust by now." Eyes big as saucers, Dixie pointed a shaking finger past me to the floor. Turning, I saw man-sized feet clad in brown loafers, toes pointing upward, sticking out from behind the island. Someone was on the floor, on their back, on brand new tile in browns, blues, and beige covering the floor. I held my breath. No sounds of breathing or moans of pain. The feet didn't move, so I edged closer. A hand grabbed my upper arm and I nearly took Dixie out with a left cross when I swung around. She shook her head and motioned back to the door. I shook my head and took a step closer to the island. Her grip tightened on my arm as she pulled her cell phone from her pocket with the other hand. "I'm calling Ben," she whispered. "You know he won't want us messing around in here." I shook off her restraining hand. "Go on and call him," I whispered back. "He needs to get out here, but I'm going to poke around a little before he does." I regretted not having my purse with me. I put my house key in the pocket of my jeans before we left for our walk up here. It had seemed ridiculous to carry a purse out in the woods and along the trails we'd walked. Now that we'd discovered a body, it would have been great to have it, so I could put on the crime scene booties I kept in there so I wouldn't contaminate the evidence. Right thing to do under the circumstances would be to leave with Dixie. But since I couldn't bring myself to do that, I squatted and took off my shoes. My socks should be clean enough not to contaminate the scene. Standing back up, I saw Dixie shaking her head. She knew I wouldn't listen to her. She motioned with her head to the back door. I nodded, and she went on out to the back porch where I heard her talking on her phone. I didn't know why we were being so quiet. If a killer had been lurking around when we got here, he was long gone now. If the guy on the floor wasn't already dead, I felt pretty sure he would have confronted us by now. Or moaned or shifted at least. I felt like I knew he was lying there. Miss Edna had told me Luxon Natalovich had been hired as a baker by the new owners, so it seemed a given it was going to be him I'd see when I rounded the island. I took a deep breath and looked. Yep, that was Luxon all right, lying in a pool of blood. There was a very small bullet hole in his forehead. No other wounds. I didn't see any signs of a struggle, which seemed odd. If someone was trying to shoot me between the eyes, I'm pretty sure I was going to be clawing and fighting like a wildcat. One bright red handprint stained the light-colored cabinet next to him, like he tried to catch himself on the way down. "Who is it?" Dixie asked from the door, looking like she wanted to run, puke, scream, or all three. "It's Luxon Natalovich," I answered, overcome with a weird sense of calm. Her eyes bugged out and she retreated to the porch. I heard the agitated sound of her voice and assumed she was talking to Ben. I let my eyes drift upward from the body and saw drips of blood down the cabinet, and as my eyes focused on the countertop, I realized what I'd initially thought was spilled icing was actually a pool of blood. Ick. I thought the cake on the counter was a strawberry punch bowl cake, but I saw the red fruit with cherries instead. The cut glass bowl was incredibly beautiful and looked antique. Had he been creating something that would be a specialty at the new inn? What was up with the cherries instead of the more traditional strawberries? And more to the point, how could I be standing there in this totally calm state making these insane observations? Maybe I'd slipped a cog. Or maybe it was all going to hit me later. I heard a hissing sound and looked toward the door. Dixie. Lily Gayle, Ben says get out of there and wait for him on the porch. I frowned. Why did you tell him I was in the kitchen? Dixie snickered. I didn't. He knew without me saying anything about it. I lifted each foot to check for blood before I walked across the kitchen. Clean. Somehow I'd managed to avoid the drips on the floor near the body. I edged back towards the door, stopping on the way to pick up my tennis shoes. Sitting at one of the little tables outside, I put them back on, and Dixie and I waited in silence for Ben. I was considering how this had happened and who might have done it. I figured Dixie was regretting she'd come with me at all, but what was done was done. So I hope you enjoyed this excerpt from Cherry Cake and a Cadaver, Book 2 in the Lily Gayle Lambert Mystery series. Thank you for visiting and watching my video, and there's a subscribe button below if you want to get notification when I put up new videos. And thank y'all for stopping by, and I hope you go over to one of the e-retailers and get your own copy. Bye, y'all.